Hello and welcome or welcome back to the Import Export Hub channel, everybody. Bias Bogdan here, your host for the next couple of minutes. Thanks for joining me, by the way. I hope everybody is doing well, and without anything else to add here, allow me to cover New Zealand's export dynamics with focus on the top 20 headings that registered the largest absolute changes, both positive and negative, in 2023, while towards the end of the video I'll cover New Zealand's top 20 headings that had the smallest variability relative to the exported values for the 2019-2023 time frame, a raw estimate, if you want, of New Zealand's competitive advantage at a heading level. So first things first, guys, I will start with New Zealand's top 20 headings that saw the largest absolute positive changes. And as we can see here, cheese and curd, so heading 0406, so the largest change, almost $102 million, which is the largest amount for this 2019-2023 time frame. And if you ask me, given the current trade frictions between the EU and China, where basically China imposed some tariffs on the EU dairy exports, I won't be surprised to see New Zealand's dairy exports increase even more in the next couple of years. On the second spot, we see gold, so heading 7108 with a positive change around $70 million, while on the third spot we have heading 1518, so animal or vegetable fats and oils, who saw a huge increase, $57.4 million to be exact, from just $8.4 million in 2022 to almost $66 million a year later. And it's worth following up if this is part of a trend or just a one-time opportunistic development. What else do we have in this list? We see food preparations, for example, not elsewhere specified, with almost $39 million positive change. We see onions, shallots, garlic, and so on, with $24.8 million change, bringing thus the overall exports for 2023 around $106 million, which is a 30.47% increase from the 2022 drop. What else do we have? We see machinery, plant or laboratory equipment with a $23 million positive change and an impressive 11% compound annual growth rate for the last 5 years. We see frozen fish, so heading 0303 with a positive change of almost $19 million. Ice cream and other edible ice follows, with some $18.5 million change. And towards the end of this list, we see crustaceans heading 0306, flat rolled products of iron or non-alloy follows. And on the 20th spot, we see machines and apparatus of a kind used principally for the manufacture of semiconductors, who saw a $14.9 million positive change, bringing the overall exports for 2023 to some $42.7 million. And also here we see an impressive compound annual growth rate for the last 5 years, around 22%. So, guys, what can I tell about these figures, these headings? Well, we have a cluster concerning chapter 72, so iron and steel, with 3 subheadings. Then we have some niche subclusters, if you want. So I'm talking about chapter 71, 22, 84, 89, and 3, each with 2 subheadings. And another thing that I see is the compound annual growth rate for the last 5 years. And except for 3 headings with negative values, the rest have very impressive ones, even though, let's face it, in terms of overall exports, we're not talking about huge figures. And besides the animal or vegetable fats and oils heading, who really took off in 2023, I will keep a close eye on the cheese and curd one, as it represents a huge opportunity for the New Zealand exporters to effectively substitute European ones on the Chinese market. So guys, these were New Zealand's largest absolute positive changes, and now I'll take a look at the largest absolute negative ones. And as we can see here, heading 0402 had the largest absolute negative change, around $980 million. Heading 0204 follows with some $486 million contraction, and the podium, let's say, ends with commodities not elsewhere specified, the covert heading 9999, who saw a $431.5 million contraction and an overall export value around $243 million. What else do we have here? We see meat of bovine animals frozen. Wood is also present, heading for 403 with a contraction of $266 million. Butter follows, then we see fresh strawberries, raspberries, and other berries with a contraction of $218.5 million and an overall export value for 2023 around $1.5 billion. What else do we have? We see live bovine animals. Wine is also present in this top 10 list, top 20 list, sorry, with a contraction of $131 million. Wood pulp follows immediately, and we have both mechanical and chemical wood pulp with $123 and $108 million contraction respectively. And towards the end of this list, we see paper and paperboard, so heading 4810. Unwrought aluminium is on the 18th place. Albumins follows. And on the 20th spot, we see fiberboard of wood, so heading 4411 with a contraction around $53 million and an overall export value for 2023 around $166 million. And again, quickly passing through these headings, we see that the wood sector was particularly hit in 2023. So chapter 44, who counts 3 headings. The dairy sector is also present, so chapter 4 with 2 headings. But as I've said previously, my educated guess tells me that it will bounce back in 2024 and 2025. As the trade tensions between the EU and China don't come to an end. So it's not that worrying. As for the rest of the headings, I will make only one comment regarding chapter 1. So I'm talking about live animals. As here, we will see a shift towards frozen or chilled meat, as the live animal transport, especially the maritime one, is heavily criticized and under scrutiny. So here the exporters will have to slaughter the animals locally and export the meat afterwards. As for the compound annual growth rates, there is nothing worrying. The volatility in the commodity sector is part of the game, if you want. Otherwise, I really don't see anything worrying for the New Zealand exporters active in these particular chapters. Now, moving on to my last sheet, guys, I will now show you the headings with the lowest variability in terms of exported values for the 2019-2023 interval. Basically, it's a ratio between the standard deviation and the mean. And here, heading 8484, so gaskets and similar joints of metal, had the smallest coefficient of variation, 0.0293. Soups and broths followed, while tableware, kitchenware, and other household articles of plastics ended this poll with a coefficient of variation of 0.0386. We see apples, pears, and quinces, fresh, food preparation not elsewhere specified is also present in this list with a coefficient of variation of 0.0452. Then we see malt extract, wine follows, and as we can see here, in terms of exported values for 2023, these are the largest values. We see, I don't know, frozen fish, so heading 0303 with a coefficient of variation of 0.0537. Tomatoes is next. And towards the end of the list, we see toilet paper and similar paper. Tube of pipe fittings is on the 19th spot with a coefficient of variation of 0.667. And last but not least, we see sauce and preparations, so heading 2103 with a coefficient of variation of 0.0684. And an overall export value for 2023 around $74.5 million. And again, quickly passing through these headings, we see that there is no pure commodity related heading in this list. So the exported values are much lower than in the previous two sheets. And even if we see, I don't know, a couple of negative compound annual growth rates for the last 5 years, the values are not that high, so not necessarily worrying. And if I were to pick one sector where New Zealand has a competitive advantage, even though it's quite regional in scale, it would be related to chapter 21, so miscellaneous food preparations, where we see 3 headings, and I don't think it would be wrong to call it a small cluster. So guys, with this being covered as well, that's it for this episode. Thanks for watching. I really hope I've managed to provide you with some useful information. Don't forget to hit those small vanity buttons below this video. And as usual, until next time, keep your business safe. Thanks.